You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
This makes my nipples hard.
Hey there, and welcome to the show. Today, Paul and I are here talking about not a game, technically, and we're also not interviewing anybody. We are talking about something, though, that most computer users have experienced at one point in their life or another, and that would be screensavers.
Yes, this is our obligatory non-adventure game episode that we do every 2.5 years. And I really wormed my way out of having to do a different type of game. We're doing screensavers, and there's still going to be a pretty heady Sierra mention in this one too.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Sure.
Of course. So, yeah, it turns out, like, when I was a kid, screensavers were kind of always automatically there because my parents were really adamant about using the screensavers. The screen burnout was programmed hard into their minds from the very early get-go, so screensavers were a big deal. And I remember when my mom worked at Pixel Art Computers, and it would have been around 87, 88, that they designed their own type of a screensaver that were these little lines that would, you know, like the art tool in Paint where you'd grab a line and you'd draw it and it would replicate the line over and over and you could change the angle and make all sorts of different pictures. It was kind of like that, but it had like this 3D kind of a thing going because they were just experimenting with early 3D images and stuff. So it was kind of like a custom screensaver, but it was also the first screensaver I ever really was exposed to.
I understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, I support that short story, and I
perhaps add your own.
Oh, okay, right, sure. Well, instead, I offer this. I think that what you touched on there was funny because you're right about how people who weren't super tech savvy were still aware of why you needed screensavers. It's like a screensaver was something like your mom was told was necessary, and so she like disproportionately asked about it because she didn't want it to cost the family money. Like, you know, you make sure to turn your monitor off there, right, Paulie? Like, you know, some sort of... She didn't sound like that at all. I don't know why I did that to a poor woman.
She sounds like that in our hearts now, though, so...
Right, yeah, I just made that canon by accident. Sorry. I didn't mean to go so Jewy with you there, Bubby. But it was just as funny, though, because it's one of those things, like, the parents were like, you know, they didn't even know why they were saying it. It's just like they were told to warn the kids about shutting the
Right. It was a big deal. Just like, it's like in the days when sleep mode or things, the computer needed to not always be going, and then there'd be conflicting information. Do you remember that? Like, always leave your computer on because it'll make it last longer. Make sure to turn your computer off all the time to make it last longer. Maybe it was different in the Apple world, but at least in the PC world, you'd get both sides.
Yeah. It was funny. That conflicting information precisely, that wasn't the right word for that. I mean, it's fine. That same type of conflicting information is still going on nowadays because, like, I just saw recently a debate on how you shouldn't close your, swipe your apps up. You shouldn't close your apps out.
Right.
Because it only costs more battery power when you reopen them and they have to rebuild a cache. It was a flimsy argument. I'm pretty impartial either way here. But the point is people still can't seem to decide on these types of things. I just know that we all miss being told that it was okay to turn our computer off. Those were weird days. But yeah.
They were weird days with big rules. I mean, there was a lot. Like, my mom always said, you have to touch something metal before you turn on the computer, otherwise you're going to break the computer. I never fully understood why, but I was petrified not to touch something metal first to ground myself because I didn't want to break the family computer. It was my mom's business. It was my gaming. So it was a huge fear for me.
On like a static bracelet connected to your computer to play games.
Yeah. Did you ever get told that growing up?
No.
To ground yourself before turning it on?
No, absolutely not. That's weird. You guys are weird, is my response to it. No, I was told not to put a vacuum near it. And that makes sense because the static can, and that's still a thing. You still don't want to vacuum, let's say, dust off your keyboard or anything like that. I mean, unless you don't want to vacuum dust off the keyboard of your laptop.
Right.
I think a keyboard separate from the computer with enough distance is fine. But yeah, Anyway, enough about static and the dangers of vacuums. Let's get into our favorite screensavers of all time. You know, how do we do this? How do we?
Well, I want to hit it up with a little bit of history because I mean, for one, back in the 70s, Atari games technically would cycle colors. If you left it on long enough, it would just go red, blue, green, whatever, black, and then that would prevent the screen burnout on people's home screens. Could you imagine how much of a controversy it would be for a company like Atari if all of a sudden on your family's, $700 big TV cabinet that takes up half the room, the image of a Pong paddle is burned into the screen? Nobody would want that.
Yeah, no. I had a fun doing research for this episode. I had a fun Google search looking at screen burn-in, and I recommend to our listeners to do that too, because there's some pretty cool purposefully burnt-in screens out there. Like people would burn in like images and stuff as far as I guess
like art.
Yeah, exactly. Making art with it, or purposely burning in like creepy portraits and things like that, and then they're stuck on the screen forever. I don't know what kind of commitment that is. I guess just leave it on there for a few weeks. I don't know how long it takes, but according to Screensavers, it doesn't take that long.
5 minutes to 25 minutes, but don't leave it for too long. You ever remember back in the day if a screensaver kicked in when you were trying to do something like download or do something in a game, it would like kill whatever process you were working on, or it would like crash something. That would happen to me sometimes. So I'd be like, and you couldn't make the screensaver not turn on at some point in the early Windows.
That's interesting because I associate that with a feeling. I just remember that panicky, like, no, and you quickly move the mouse. I don't
exactly.
remember
Don't
why
let
I
that
was
happen.
doing that, but,
I don't remember, but it's true. But yeah, okay. So I was going to jump into like some people personally had made screensavers on the small end industry side of things, just personal people or people working on other projects. And what happens, of course, is that large companies end up taking those ideas and creating something significant with it. But this guy came in, this Apple guy, and taught me a little bit about how in 1983, Apple had their own ideas.
Right, that's right. And then I had a passive-aggressive showdown in Google Documents. I saw her green cursor come in while I'm typing. I was like, hold on. Apple, says the douchey Apple guy, who did literally buy a black turtleneck within recent weeks. What am I getting at? Oh, the Apple Lisa is the first instance of a screensaver that I could find in my research, and it came out in 1983, and the Apple Lisa did, and all it did, it wasn't called Screensaver, it was called the Screen Savior. I'm just kidding. That was so terrible. God, hate me for that. This is why I don't listen to our episodes back. It's stuff like that.
Even though you edit them.
Yeah, I scrubbed through
plugging
it.
Your ears. You're
dead.
like, this is what the timestamp says. I'm not going to listen.
Right,
I'm just going to believe myself.
Timestamps, exactly. There's no need to hear all that nonsense that passed me, so I cringe. But you guys have to hear it, and I'm sorry for that. Anyway, Apple Lisa had a screensaver, and all it did was make the screen go black. And that came out in 1983. Later in 1983, and I'll hand it off to Anna, the screensaver was given its official name by a guy who sorry, everyone. That was one of those bitchy owls that doesn't hurt. You just say it for some reason. I don't know. Oh,
I do those sometimes, and then James will be like, "Sorry," and I'm like, "That didn't hurt." He's like, "Well, why did you say ow?" I'm like, "I don't know, because my pain tolerance is actually really high."
Yeah, I don't know. I do it all the time. Like the slightest little bump, I'm like, ow.
I know. It's the brain is reacting quicker than the rest of everything else, I guess.
Maybe it's like just in case we need like our society's assistance. Like I might be hurt. Okay, no, it's cool. Like I don't know. Anyway, the Apple Lisa turned the screen black. And what I like about this whole painful point that I'm forcing to make right now is that that's all screensavers ever had to do was just make the screen go black. Like the Apple Lisa did in 1983. And I think it's a nice little testament to human whatever that we decided to take something like that and make it fun. It's the good side of human now, where it's like, well, hey, why make it go black when we could make it do wacky 3D pipes?
Exactly. Which is what led to, I mean, some creators, there was, I'm just going to list them off as names, but imagine you've got like this kaleidoscope kind of looking one. That was from 1988. And then there's like this tunnel one where it's all these day glow circles coming at your face and plasma. And all of it's very like cool and groovy and stuff. And that ended up progressing into 1989 with Bug Fry. And there's like this bug zapper and there's these little flies buzzing around it. And every time a fly lands in the zapper, you'll hear like the bzzz noise as it zaps out the fly. And that was kind of the precipitation or the beginning of what I believe turned into programs like After Dark, for example.
Well, what our hope here with this episode is that as Anna yelled things at you back there, that you guys were popping off one at a time, like, oh, I know that one. And then somebody in Illinois was like, I know that one. And then somebody in New York was like, that's the one that I had, the bug zap one. I had that one. Mm-hmm. So that's our hope, because this episode is a little dodgy because it's there's no story, there's no gameplay, and it's a visual
visuals.
Description. Right. Coming from us who are not the most precise people in the world as far as how we tend to explain things. So this whole thing, look, it's going to be a short episode by design. That's the most we could do for you guys. Oh, speaking of which, or maybe I was supposed to say at least we could do, it's the thing we're doing for you guys. But also, we had said at the end of last episode that this episode will be Return to Monkey Island. So, for those of you tuning in that are all like, what the, fuck. Sorry, I decided to just go really hard on the F there for some reason. But for those of you wondering, we need more time with that. I need more time with that. Anna's halfway done. I haven't started it. So, but I bought it, and that was a step forward. Because I want to enjoy this game. I started thinking to myself, well, a lot of it has to do with how much I enjoyed Monkey Island 3. I was like, okay, they reeled me back in. Because after Monkey Island 2, I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I don't know if I need to Monkey Island anymore. But then 3 was really, really good. So now I'm actually kind of excited about it. And then it got me thinking of how much I love Thimbleweed Park, as everybody probably knows by now. And this is Terrible Toy Box. This is also the same devs, better mostly just known as Ron Gilbert. But like, why shouldn't I amp myself up to like it potentially as much as Thimbleweed? Never mind. So, yeah. So we need more time on that. I think it's going to be our next episode because now I have 2 weeks to play it, and it's about 7 or so hours, whatever. So it should be our next episode, probably. Yeah,
it should be. It'll be fine. But in the meantime, yes, Screensavers. So a few fun facts. Screensavers transitioned in the 80s from a technical fix to an experimental art form. So that's where you started getting these really cool animated screensavers and things that would happen. And some screensavers being so memorable, like Paul said earlier, the pipes, or as we'll get into, the After Dark set of screensavers, that they kind of became iconic as a part of a generation.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take us. Iconic is a great way to say it, and I know myself. I still keep a screensaver. I still have flying toasters on my modern Mac. I forgot how I did that now. I assume it wasn't very hard, but it's been like that for years. And all you fellow Mac users out there, Chad, when you get a new Mac, you just transfer your info. So I've just been transferring it for years, and it's just on there. But if you listening use a Mac and you want flying toasters on yours, let me know, and I'll send it to you. Or do a Google search, which will be remarkably faster way of getting that done.
Yeah, Paul answering his emails. Anybody writing to the podcast is like, hey, it might be nice if Paul responded to something, but it's great, Anna, that you do too.
Yes, I always do in spirit.
I do come to him and read things to him, and he appreciates it. So, but that's kind of how it is in my life with the people around me. Is they don't do that as much.
They don't,
but I do. I like to, though. You do other things. I'll look at it. You're busy editing the episode while I'm chatting with our lovely listeners, and it works. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Exactly. So it's terribly symbiotic. And oh yeah. So you can get modern toasters on your thing. So that's a weird sentence.
You can get modern flying toasters on your thing, yes.
Yes, exactly. It's one of those beautiful little sentences that actually made sense to everybody leading up to it. But what's also really cool is you can also get the entire After Dark set on Windows 11 and 10 probably And it was really, really easy. And I might leave a link for this in the episode description. There's a 40% chance I did. Everybody take a look down there and see what happened. Let me know if I did or not. But again, so the toasters have been on my Mac forever. But in preparation for this episode, I was watching a video on YouTube. Okay, so this is sorry, Anna. Sorry, everybody. I'm making this a little painful. Let me regroup. Several weeks ago, my son and I were enjoying a quiet evening at home together. And Strummer was watching a video, and I glance over, and I see 3D pipes, and I see Johnny Castaway. And I'm like, holy S-word. That's Johnny Castaway. He's watching this Sword of Sierra thing in his own free time. What's going on here? So we watched the video together. It's by a YouTuber called Polygon
Yep.
Donut.
Yep.
And they do a fantastic 22-minute recap on Screensavers. If you want the visual version of this episode, from somebody, so what you get from us is experience. We were fucking there. All right. We are you. We are on the ground representing you. Poly something donut is like Gen Z. He's like a kid. So I don't even know why he likes it or did the thing. But it's a great little video, and check it out. But that got Strummer super excited about Screensavers, which got me super excited about being alive. And so we went, I did a quick search to see hey, I got these fine toasters on my Mac. Maybe we can get AfterDark on his thing. Because I had already gone the route of installing AfterDark 3.0 in DOSBox and going that direction or whatever. And we both got bored of that somewhat quickly. He had fun with it. But anyway, this isn't sounding like a fun story, so I'm trying to rush through it. So I found on archive.org, somebody out there put together a package that miraculously launches DOSBox in the background. Everything's in the background. Everything happens within 3 seconds. But it's a legit screensaver for Windows. And you set it to whatever time you want. But after, let's say, 5 minutes, it launches AfterDark. And it gives you one of the many AfterDark packages. I think they're all bundled in there. I've seen everything from the Simpsons one to the toasters and other things that we'll cover in this episode. So if you're interested in that, type in AfterDark Windows 11 or check the description in the podcast, whatever. And I recommend it. It was the setup took 5 minutes. You have to do a few little tiny things there. Everybody listening here can do it, because if you can install a game in DOSBox, you can do this. And it's pretty cool. Now every time I pass by my kid's computer and he's not on it, it's got some random AfterDark thing playing. So, yay.
I like that. Because, screensavers for, I asked my son, who's 14, what is a screensaver to you? And he said, a screensaver to me is family photographs and memes. Because I made this giant folder of every funny meme I've ever found on the internet. Starting, I don't know, in 2008, probably. And I put them in this file folder, and there's 3,500 memes and funny things in there, and statements and wild pictures and cool pictures. And I named it Screensavers, and I let it run as my screensaver background for forever and ever and ever and ever. So to him, screensaver means funny little memes and photos and things. He didn't think of it as any of the other ones we mentioned.
That's interesting that he at least does. I'm surprised that he screen saves it all. Bro, do you even screen save? I'm impressed that he even does it all, because it's just so. It's been unnecessary for at least 15 years.
At least. Almost 20, really. I mean, there was a transition time, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we could put it this way. XP was the last operating system that it would have been, that it would have shipped with necessary screensavers. Because I know they, from our homework here, maybe we will or will not get into it, but come Windows 7 and onwards, I'm going to skip Windows Me and maybe whatever Vista was. I don't know. I'm not.
I think Microsoft skipped them too, to be fair.
Yeah, they basically they after XP they started shipping them with 3 screensavers only. It was just a minimal pack. So anyway, XP would be last. I would say, I don't know, just for fun, I would guess 06 would be the death of CRTs. Maybe 08.
20 years. That's 20 years ago.
Something like
It's
that.
crazy.
That was old school. The way that came out there. I lost control.
Oh boy, somebody clean that up.
Starry Night was the first AfterDark screensaver. I'm going to put us back on a timeline. So, sorry about my weird throat thing that's going on.
It's all right. Starry Night, Bad Dog, right? Where the dog's chomping on the screen.
Yeah, he would come out later. Fun fact, since this episode is what it is, I'll just say it now. Starry Dog got its own TV show, everybody. In 1980...
Oh, Starry Night did?
No, Bad Dog.
Oh, Bad Dog did.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember the show Bad Dog.
Yeah. 1998, Bad Dog, the mischievous dog tearing up the screen, got his own TV show.
I didn't know that they were connected at all. I had no clue. It was like Nickelodeon or whatever.
Just imagine in a world where a screensaver gets its own TV show. This was the 90s. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Part of me wonders sometimes, like, is it nostalgia that makes me miss the 90s? And I don't think so. I don't think it was. Anyway, back to facts. Nobody needs our stories or entertainment. Let's just yell facts at them. So in 1988, no, okay, hold on. I do want to back up one more step. Because to everybody listening, the first, at least popular animated screensaver was made by Bill Stewart and Ian McDonald, and it was called Magic Screensaver. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to explain this. It was like a dancing, not dancing. It was like a loom that was folding in on itself. Mm-hmm. Is that words that make sense?
It was like a 3D loom folding. It was almost what I was trying to describe about what my mom's was like, but hers was more laid out like that in stick form in different directions.
Oh, that's what. Okay, got it. If I wasn't clear at the time, I didn't know what you were talking about back then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It comes back around eventually. Sometimes we'll be like, "Oh yeah, remember a year ago you told me that, and I didn't really get it. Now I do. Thank you for
that's
clearing that up."
Yeah, that's it. I love watching them come back to us like that. Good. Okay. So for those of you out there, that was the first one. If you're ever just like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to say about it other than list it as a fact. So, check?
Check.
Cool. So then after that, that's when Starry Night by AfterDark, by Berkeley Systems from AfterDark came out. It came out on the Macintosh in 1989. Yes, that is like a little douchey, pretentious way of me slipping it in there. The Mac had that first.
It was like 2 years earlier the Mac got most of this stuff. I think After Dark didn't really hit PC till like 90 or 91, something around there.
Right, exactly. It took PC. Never mind. That's an unnecessary dig.
Considering that most of our listeners are PC users,
right.
Just down to demographics alone. So.
So after I came out with Mac first, Starry Night was the one where it was like a building. Well, I mean, I you might say that it was actually about a starry night.
It becomes what it is. It just, over time, it develops like a photograph in a way.
Wow. Yes, nice. That was teasing on the poetic there at the end. It becomes what it is.
But that's the cool thing about it, and that's the reason that we watched Screensavers, is we wanted to see them become what they are. Through no navigation from us, they were just becoming something, and there was something magical, like the computer was somehow alive, or just not sitting there dormant that when you weren't using it, that would bring you back. You know, you're just sitting there like idly staring at it. The next thing you know, 15 minutes has passed, and you haven't even like turned it off yet to do something else.
Exactly right. And that makes me think of possibly my favorite screensaver, my second favorite screensaver ever, which was the Simpsons After Dark pack.
Mm-hmm, that's a funny one.
Just adore that so much because it's specifically the one where Homer eats the screen.
Mm-hmm, I knew it.
So good.
So satisfying. I love them when they eat it's like, because there's that other one where the dude mows the grass off of the screen, which is a pretty funny one.
Yeah,
but
yes.
I like the eating the screen.
And the eating the screen one, from a programming perspective, is really impressive. Like I don't know what they did there. It seems like they would have had to have taken, maybe not a screenshot, but they would have had to have understood where everything on your specific screen was, because he doesn't eat a generic screen.
No.
Like
he's
he
eating your
screen.
icons and your. It's kind of like, which is where it had me, and I'll mention them a little bit at the end. Those desktop games. It takes me to that sort of line of thinking, because in the desktop games like Indiana Jones and his desktop adventures, I had that one. They would play in and around the icons and use the desktop to their advantage. So they had to have understood time and place in the numbers to get how to interact with your desktop in those specific ways.
Right. Right, that's in the "what are we even doing here" territory, the interactive screenshots, because it's or screensavers.
Well,
yeah.
they're not even screensavers because the screen's still there. They're not like, it's just a way. I think they were like, you know what? One part of the computer that's underutilized that we want people to have fun with. What's that? The desktop.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
like to be at that meeting, to be a fly on the wall and just hear what everybody had to say about it. It amuses me.
Yeah, how about instead of it just saving the screen, you play it while it saves your You don't even leave anymore. Now you're just staying at the computer, it turns out. I said something real stupid a second ago, that was the Simpsons thing. They wouldn't at all need your layout or anything at all. All you would have to do is just when Homer takes a bite, you just add black.
Right.
And then the 3D depth to the, makes it look like you're biting in the screen. So, and then every time he bites, you just add another little black tile, let's say, a chunk bitten out tile to his sprite. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And if that has alpha, like it's on top of the screen, that's it. Okay. Well, I'm glad we all worked that one out together. I feel better. But yeah, I mean, okay, let's go through some more of the screenshots for fun. So you got your flying toasters. What is there to say about them besides they got plushies back in the day? Another instance of how popular screensavers became at a point. Just how like clutch they were to computing and what a like fun little novelty they were to everybody. That AfterDark got their own plushies. Mm-hmm. So that's as much as I could probably say about.
I need to digress. Okay, so I was chatting with Space Quest historian yesterday when we were doing a podcast, and I was talking about screensavers, and he said, although it's not technically a screensaver, it might be interesting if you brought up Little Computer People or House on a Disk from 1985, because it was initially designed to be a screensaver. It was supposed to be entirely passive, but they ended up adding on the ability to click on the people and do little surprise things and stuff instead. So it started as what could have been one of the OG screensavers out there, but it ended up becoming something a little bit more.
Right. It almost sounds like it could have been more popular if it stayed a screensaver.
I wonder if it would have. It's a cool concept. I've never played it myself, but I'm intrigued by it.
Because I guess what I mean by that is it sounds like it ended up existing in a weird linear space here, like just in between screensavers and games.
Yeah, like it influenced Will Wright. So the whole reason the idea of Sims kind of came up to him is because of that game, which was the idea of managing the lives. So instead of being a precursor to screensavers, it became in that same position for the Sims instead.
Right. Well, then it did its work. Everybody, many people like The Sims, so if it has that to thank for it, then it's done enough.
It certainly has. It's pretty impressive. But again, not technically a screensaver, but worth a nod. But AfterDark, I mean, there was a whole bunch of iterations of AfterDark. There was like different packs, and each pack they'd kind of add things onto it or refine them a little bit. So it just kept coming out over and over and over and over again. I wish I had a small box of it.
I would like the Johnny Castaway box, but that thing's crazy expensive when it...
Oh, could you imagine? That would be amazing. And that's right in there. I think, what is that, 1991? Or it's not deep into the timeline.
Right. I don't know the year. Maybe 92 is jumping to mind, but I don't know. I know there was an EGA version of it, so yeah, it was 92. Mm-hmm. That would have been that era where you would get the EGA version as well, just in case. Yeah, that one's my favorite of all time. I mean, obviously, it's the Sierra one.
I had a demo of Johnny Castaway. It wasn't the full version, but it was on a disc that came with some other game in some way, and you got like a section. Like you didn't get all of his interactions. Okay. It was like a shareware.
Right, shareware version. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a way to get this one running on modern Windows. Not Mac anymore, past Catalina, but you can get it working on Windows if you go to larrylaffer.net or just search it up. It looks a little tricky, but it seems like it's possible. I might try it honestly because I run AGS on Windows, so it might be kind of fun to see it. When I had my 486 working, I had Johnny Castaway on there, and that was always fun because there's I don't know, Johnny Castaway would make a good not second channel, but a good little like supplemental video from OneShortEye. Like
Right.
you know, I know from talking to him sometimes he's looking for. I guess I'm telling him this now through the podcast. Looking for like those little 15, 20-minute deals. Johnny Castaway might be a fun one, just because it might be fun code to look into, in the sense that there's a lot of little events, and the way that they're timed and spaced out is you know, just very Sierra. and really, really random. But then there's also things where they check out like the internal clock system. So if it's Halloween, you get a pumpkin on your island washes up, and if it's Christmas, a Christmas tree, and little cool things like that. But I'd just be curious of like exactly what events there are, like how many are there, what all happens. Like we have the gist of it. There's like Gilligan Island Easter eggs, and
I like the one where he sees the mermaid and then he's like, oh, and you're thinking he's like, oh, that's a hot mermaid. But all that comes into his head is that he's thinking about a fish. So he's like, fine, I'll go try fishing on that side of the island now.
right.
I don't know, kind of funny. But yeah, that was the beginning of not necessarily interactivity, but kind of the next level of where the screensaver could go, assuming that the screensaver would always be utilized forever and ever and ever. I mean, which it isn't, obviously.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Ken Williams had mentioned that Johnny Castaway was like wildly profitable for Sierra because it was a very small developmental effort, and that's a weird way to put that, but it works maybe. And that it, you know, they sold boatloads of them, so there was definitely not a pun intended with that, by the way. But
yeah, I see.
But I'm surprised that Sierra didn't make more Screensaver. You know, didn't have like a not a sequel, but just a different vibe, a different theme, a different Screensaver.
Screensavers, though, they changed entirely around 1995 because they started going super duper 3D. Like before, it would be like refracting images, and it was kind of 3D because you could look down into tunnels and things, but it brought in like with 3D maze and pipes and building blocks. Those were all very, very modern and 3D looking at the time. Like it was the future in a screensaver.
Right. Yeah, especially when you have 3D pipes that shipped with Windows 95.
Yeah.
And then the Windows 95 Plus pack had you know, more like a nature theme and a trivia theme and surreal images. I think that's where you got some more 3D stuff. But the 3D pipes, a fun little rabbit hole that I got sent down looking at this one was there's a rare chance of in the 3D pipes of finding the Utah teapot. And I was like, you know, what is that? And the Utah teapot is a famous 3D modeling object that has been used as an industry reference since 1975. So somebody designed this teapot thing in 1975. It looks amazing for 1975. It really, the 3D model, its original 3D model from 75 looks like mid-90s 3D. It's really good. I guess hence why it became a model. But anyway, this little teapot has been, been made an Easter egg in many different things, including like Toy Story or like Pixar shorts and stuff like that. So in a lot of, especially the earlier 90s 3D stuff, people would put that teapot in there as a home, you know, to pay homage to like the birth of 3D designs. So Utah teapot, that's a fun little rabbit hole if you guys want to Google that up. And
sounds like a sex position. Like, tonight, baby, we're going to try the Utah teapot.
Man,
and be like, oh, okay, are we ready for that?
Right, that involves several spouses.
Yeah, we have to have a party first. You know, it's the kind where they leave their keys in the dish at the front door.
And then in this, though, never mind. So,
no.
Yeah, there's no need to...
No need. But the reason I love that 3D era is because, like, in Windows 98 or even XP, they changed that. And it was like jungle scenes and little animated critters or, like, weird things flying across the screen. And it lost a little bit of the charm, I think, of the earlier Windows screensavers very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. It just seems like all the iconic ones were from the 90s. Like I guess the last iconic screensaver I can think of would have been the Matrix one from '99.
Yeah,
and that
one is good.
Yeah, and I think you just had to find it and download it, sort of thing, like a shareware situation. But the Matrix one I remember seeing a lot in that time, like I would have been in Hollywood at that time and going around like my brother's friends' houses, and I just remember them being on the screens in that 2000 era, obviously, because the film had just come out and it gives you that cool old hacker vibe or whatever. But I don't remember anything really after that having any sort of impact or lasting impact at all, except for one huge oversight, which is the Serene Screen Aquarium.
I was going to just jump into aquarium because that is my everything growing up as a kid, was having that aquarium screensaver, because I never had fish. And like the aquarium, the reason I wanted to do this episode actually is because I came across LGR's video on aquarium screensavers and the history of it. And it's all extremely fascinating. And I'm not going to bother retelling any of it. Go watch his video. It's 15 minutes long and you will be enthralled from beginning to end on this thing. And it's just super cool. But for me, just on my personal opinion, I loved having the aquarium, feeding the fish, being able to interact with the screensaver, and it wouldn't go away. Like, it was just there, and it looked so realistic, especially as the iterations went on.
It currently looks amazing. It currently ships with Tubi. No, that's not true. Is it? No, Tubi's the app. It's Roku.
Oh, Roku. Yeah, it's every Roku user automatically will get that screensaver. Yes, that is a thing.
It looks really, really good. You can still insert your own image into it as you could back in the day. So back in the day, you could make it would have to be, what would you say, monochrome. It'd have to be black and white. But if you made a black and white bitmap, you could have it imposed on the little, what would you say that was? It looked like an award, like a clear-cut piece of rock was in the tank.
Yeah, just sitting in the tank, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really good for, like, companies, let's say. So, like, the company could put their logo on the thing, and, you know, whenever the computers went to sleep, it would be a little marketing or whatever. But anyway, like, all those things are still in there, and there's, like, up to 30 fish nowadays, and it looks really, really, really good. And I'm trying to think of the name. I shouldn't do this to both of us, right? Here, I'll babble enough for you to quickly search the guy who came up with Screensaver Aquarium, but I can't remember his name. But my point is that he was a phenomenal pixel artist, like unreal. It's a loss that he never did anything for adventure games.
Right, yeah, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Huh? Like the skills that he had. It was made by Serene Screen, developed by Jim Sachs in the early 2000s. It was officially called Marine Aquarium. It became one of the most well-known digital fish tank screensavers of all time.
Yes, thank you for that, Jim Sachs. And he did a bunch of games.
Little games and things, yeah.
But also really big games. So we don't know what they are, but they were big. And you know what? We don't have to know what they are because they weren't adventure games. That's not... Why pretend? Why do we have to be like, we're the authority on Jim Sachs? Okay, I don't know Jim or his sack. I just know that he was a phenomenal pixel artist, and he did some really big games that people
Defender
like.
of the Crown, Centurion,
like,
Ports of Call, the Movie Monster game, and Saucer Attack.
And Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit.
That's pretty cool.
Defender of the Crown, that's probably the one that people like, because that sounds like a game I would not play. Just a lot of running around in the forest with a sword. I don't like that kind of stuff. But anyway, Jim Sachs is a phenomenal pixel artist. He did some really cool, just like, I think they were for screensavers, I'm not sure, but just like a Kawasaki Superbike and a Porsche, and just like these really, really cool ads. And then he did an ad for Amiga that was awesome, where it's like the water is coming through an Amiga screen and splashing into the water, and there's fish, tropical fish all around it. And that's that scene that he drew, which was an ad for Amiga, possibly Atari, but probably Amiga, became the blueprint or the foundation for the Serene whatever thing we're talking about now.
Oh, dude, he had technical mastery of the digital realm. He understood the concepts of 3D and positional space better than many of us ever could have dreamed in that time.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the amazing pixel art of Jim Sachs. You can search it up and find some just great stuff.
And, oh, you know what else is a screensaver? Do you remember those bouncing DVD, like when your DVD wouldn't be doing anything, or you'd leave it for too long and the DVD logo would bounce all over the screen? Technically a screensaver on a DVD player.
Ah, look at you. Okay, that does technically work. I was upset by that when you first said it. I was like, wow, wildly off topic again. I can't believe you would bring DVDs into this.
Remember the games on DVDs back in the day? They would come especially with kids' DVDs, and you'd use the remote control to do simple trivia and basic games.
The extras, yeah.
Yeah, that was the cool times. You know what? Blu-rays sucked because they didn't have all of the content. They didn't even half the time have a DVD menu. They didn't have all the extras and all the cool little animations and games the DVDs did. So many movies, when they ported them onto Blu-ray, they're just like, it'll look phenomenal. What else could people want? And they removed the Easter eggs and the cool stuff.
Do you remember, see, I don't remember that specific little period of time where they, because I guess maybe the disc space, like they were cramming it full of the high definition movie. They didn't have any room left. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It could have been. I don't know why. Yeah.
Do you remember this short-lived format war between HD DVD and Blu-ray?
Yeah, and I don't know, the winner doesn't always win.
Huh. What do you mean?
Oh, I just mean, the best man doesn't always win, like VHS versus Betamax.
Right, okay. Because Betamax, I hear, was better. I don't know on what
Yes.
grounds that stands on, but it says here that HD had cheaper products, lower manufacturing costs, and flexibility to easily have HD, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. There's not a clear, real reason. It seems like people just prefer... I think Blu-ray was just marketed better.
I think that's what it was. There was
cool,
more
the
money
discs were
behind
blue. It just seemed cool. You know, like I know this. I know that I remember going to Target back in the day and there being a choice, and I remember choosing Blu-ray, and I remember not having a reason to choose Blu-ray. I'm just like, this one.
Right.
This is cooler. I want a blue-looking disc.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That was it. That was the selling point right there.
Yeah, that's all we needed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we ended up with a Blu-ray player randomly. And I mean, they were going on and on about how much they had like superior audio and video quality because they're all like in 1080p and all of that. And they had better, I think they had a bigger storage capacity. And you know what? A big part of it back in that time was the PS3. Because I remember we got a PS3 at that time too. And I think they would play Blu-ray discs. And it was like, it connected the gaming side of things and Blu-ray and quality and all of that, and they tied it all together. And I really think, because Sony, remember, they were Blu-ray personified too, and putting out the discs and the stuff through their entertainment. So I think they just did some really good linking at the time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, because I had the PlayStation and you didn't need a special player as you might for the HD DVD, which was made by Toshiba and NEC. I had to look that up real quick.
I think that's why. And I don't even think it was a matter of it was like laser discs, right? Like, wasn't that an amazing technology as well?
Versus record-sized discs, yeah.
Freaking the coolest thing ever, but it's not what ended up succeeding. But it was, to be able to rewind and fast forward and pause on a disc and have it be a crystal clear image is something that the VHS tape or Betamax or any of them could never have competed with.
Yeah, there was no question there. DVD was definitely a step up from VHS, as much as I miss the bloomy VHS aesthetic nowadays. I'm sure I wouldn't miss it when it comes to like actually watching a quality new movie, but yeah.
Quality's never been a thing for me. Like, I've never cared. I'll watch a grainy documentary video or a DVD of an old show, and I don't know. Like, I've never been like, wow, I'd really love it if my yellows and greens were crisper on the screen, or Blu-ray versus DVD versus VHS versus reading a book on fancy paper or reading a book on shitty paper. Like, I don't really care of the quality. It's the content that I'm looking for, not the makeup the content is wearing.
Yeah, I completely agree. Except for the paper part. I only read on fancy paper. That's like
That's
a hard...
true.
Yeah.
That is a whole
thing. You know
thing
that about me. Everybody does. But,
everybody knows.
But the video thing I completely understand, because it makes me feel sometimes the way I feel about food, where I feel like people taste more things than I can, because I just don't... my ceiling of giving a shit is way lower than a lot of people's. And it's the same with visuals. Like, I to this day... I still don't really see the 4K difference. Like, I do. It's not like I don't, like, see it, but, like, I just barely do. I'm like, that looks a little sharper. I don't know. Like, I wear contacts. Maybe I have a little schmutz on my contacts all the time. And it's just, like, that little layer of, like, film or whatever that, like, makes it so... it really could be down to just that. I'm not sure. I never wear glasses anymore. It's always... I've been wearing contacts since 6th grade. And I do often suspect that maybe that's the thing. But, like, I've never really cared about that
No, I don't wear any glasses or contacts or anything. The only difference I've noticed is if you walk right up to the frickin' TV and you're watching a Blu-ray thing, the little tiniest details are slightly clearer. But when you're sitting over there on the couch anyways, what the hell does it matter? My eyes aren't good enough to make anything clear.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I always thought this is barely related, but and almost nobody's with me on this one, which is fair. But when I go to the movie theaters, I like to sit really close to the screen, or else I feel like I might as well be at home. Like if I'm sitting in the back of the theater and you can make a rectangle with your fingers. Picture like Steven Spielberg, you're doing that directory thing where you're like, I'm going to frame my shot. Okay, everybody frame your shot. If the movie theater thing fits into that, then you might as well just be home looking at a TV. Like I
agree.
If you're gonna go to the movies, I feel like you should be like surrounded in a sense by the screen. Like it should be like,
true.
Washing over you or whatever.
When was the last time you went to the movies? Because the last time I went to the movies was 2006.
Holy shit! Wow,
Yeah.
That's wild. That's a long. I could have related. I might have went 2006 to 2017. I might have had a run like that because I don't like going to the movies. But
I just don't like it for a date or an interactive activity because nobody's talking to each other. So unless I really care about this shared experience, it's not really my thing.
I don't like the commitment behind it. I don't like that I have to commit to sitting there for that amount of time and I can't pause and get up.
Can't pause it, can't
like,
leave. You always have to pee at the wrong time.
Right.
Exactly. I'm like, if I pee now, I'm going to miss something.
Yeah, you have to think about how much you're drinking as you're watching it and stuff. Like I don't like that at all. But I've had to go a bunch for Strum until recently when Spider-Man 2 ruined the movies for him. To the point where we actually got in a mild argument about this a month ago. It was the last time we had a little tiff. It was because I was trying to get him to go back to give movies a try again. Because he was really excited about the Dogman movie until he remembered that he hates movies now. But basically, Spider-Man 2, I'm still mad at that movie. The Spider-Verse Spider-Man 2, by the way. It's 2.5 goddamn hours long. It's way too long, and it ends on a cliffhanger. So it's like, first of all, this is not just for kids, but also for kids. 2.5 hours is a long time. That's a big ask to get this generation to sit in a chair for. And then you can't even tell the story you have to tell in that time. Like after 2 hours and 40 minutes, because now I decided it's a little longer than 2.5 hours. You couldn't tell the story. You're not even close to done. We need to go home for 3 years and then come back again. So it demoralized both of us because by the time the movie was over, he was just like, "Holy shit, can we leave? This has been forever." And it's not a bad movie. The first one's one of the best movies of all time. It's that good. If listeners, if you've watched Into the Spider-Verse 1 and you disagree that it's a top 20 movie, let me know because I feel like it's just one of those movies everybody's like, "Yeah, that was really good." It has no business being that good. It's so visually interesting. But anyway, the second one is still pretty good, but it just doesn't earn that runtime, man. And ever since then, he refuses to go back to the movies.
That's great.
So, anyway, okay.
Okay, outside of Screensavers, I want to make a nod here to the desktop mates and the virtual pets that would live on your desktop. Did you ever have those? I remember having pets, and they would live, and you throw a ball. It'd be a cat or a dog, and it would kind of do things and little tricks. It was almost like a Tamagotchi in your computer.
No, I didn't. I didn't computer from 2001 to 2008 or so.
Right.
That's my little black period where I work stuff and life stuff. I just didn't. And that when you say that, it sounds so 2004.
It was.
It's hard to define the early noughties as an era. Until these things come up. Where you're actually, there were definitive 2000. There were early 2000 things exactly what you're describing.
And the other thing is things like Bonsai Buddy and little creatures that would live on your screen that you were supposed to be able to ask questions of and things like that. But again, as we've learned later, that was kind of collecting adware and information on us. Because I remember having Bonsai Buddy too for a while, but I never did any banking or anything on my computer, so I don't think it really mattered.
Oh, you're collecting that kind of stuff?
No, for real. If they were spyware.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
Hidden in plain sight.
Right there, because we all had them. I mean, they'd come with this. You had the internet, you got Bonsai Buddy. It was just, you had ICQ and you had Bonsai Buddy. It was just a thing.
Chad and I don't know what you're talking about. Macintosh would never allow for such a compromise in security.
No, that's true. That's true. But no, I did like that stuff. So, I mean, that's kind of it. And now, to me, as I said, screensavers in this house are still photographs. Right now, though, the meme folder hasn't been going. It's just been family photos. And I've set it up so that it's different trips that we've taken over time, over like the last 15 years that, my husband and I have been together. And so just different places we've been to and, getting a little bit nostalgic. So I've been using it for that. After getting rid of any photos in there that showed us doing questionable things that we shouldn't flash up on the giant screen in the living room.
Right. Squishy, wet things. Gross.
Perhaps.
I think it's sad to... That's so mean. I'm going to keep saying it. I think it's sad to watch screensavers devolve into a slideshow.
Yeah.
Into our vacation slideshow.
It's true. I guess I was thinking, like, nobody ever looks at photos. Nobody ever looks at photograph books. And they're always sitting there in the computer now because you can't physically pick them up and nobody sees them. So nobody cares. And maybe once in a while you do. But what's the point? So by putting it up on the big screen, I've had so many times that we just walk by and go, aw, I remember that, or I want to go back there. And to me, it felt like revitalizing photo albums a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's legit. Mine's based on like the tropey 80s joke of being forced to watch a slideshow from a neighbor.
I like that too. Like, oh God, no, not the family photos.
Right,
I don't want to hear about
thing.
your trip to England.
Yeah, but you actually have like decent heart and reason behind it. So I'm not doing it, but I'll get behind you doing it.
But yeah, I like, the coolest thing is screensavers never needed your user input. Screensavers showed how a computer behaved when you left it entirely alone. It's an idle and it entertained you. And that kind of made it an all-around perfect companion because you can go to the computer and instead of being passive, you can be interactive and do things and create things. But even when you just feel like being passive, it's still there for you. So fuck the TV.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about the customizable aspect too. Like it introduced the idea that computers were something that you could customize to your own liking. And like one of the most popular screensavers ever was probably the 3D text one. Like it's not really fun to talk about. I mean, frankly, all of these are a bit of a struggle to talk about because again, for visually describing them. But the 3D text one is shocking how popular it was because as long as you just remember that you could type in like Steve smells in your office and have that bounce around your screen. Like, just for all the little office jokes and the ribbing of other people and things like that. The whole point of the 3D texting, I think, was to just be mean to your brothers and sisters and peers and whatnot. So, but anyway, the point, I don't know. The point was maybe the customizable thing. And the last thing I want to mention on my end here is, I'm mostly bringing this up for you because I never had it. I think you wanted to talk about it, was mystery and how it would occasionally scare the shit out of you.
Right, exactly. It would just, and one of the girls in my ladies' night brought it up as well, just saying that she remembers watching the screensaver and all of a sudden a door would open or you'd hear this like, and it would do like these creepy noises. And, it's the unexpected, you have no control over this. So it's going to kind of catch you off guard. And that's fun, isn't it? I mean, not knowing exactly what's going to happen next. It's kind of exciting.
It is. And scene.
So is there anything that you want to say about screensavers before we let these poor people go?
That's all I'll ever have to say on screensavers. I will never speak of screensavers again. As a matter of fact, I'm going to briefly type a description for this episode and then just
never
let it
think
drift
about it again.
Out into the sea, where one day I bump into Johnny Castaway. Okay, now I'm done. That was the last.
That was it. Okay, well, thank you. If there's a screensaver that we haven't mentioned,
play a theme song. Just struck a lovely bass note there.
that was that. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that's our episode about screensavers. Maybe we missed one that you really like or one that you had growing up that you want to tell us about. Or maybe you've done something different with screensavers that we haven't even thought about. Or, hey, maybe you're making a screensaver and I'd love to, throw it on my computer and check it out instead of the family photos for a while. Let us know. Do you even think that screensavers are cool, or did we just waste the last hour of your time? I don't know. Maybe don't tell us.
I hope this wasn't an hour. Oh, God, it's close to it.
It would be, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can feel the hour. We really, really did try to make it shorter, but anyways. I want to say thank you to our Patreoners. This is really, really helpful for us. That was a terrible phrasing, but you guys get an episode a little bit earlier than everybody else, and thank you. I've been doing lots of thinking about Patreon, and I have some ideas and things that are going to happen there. So just keep an eye out, and you might be hopefully pleasantly surprised. I want to say thank you to our True Believer tier with Gareth and Mick and Christopher, Brian, Chapman, Jay Holmes. Sorry, more me hitting my microphone. And Jeffrey, Couch, and Mark. Sorry, I don't know why I used your last name and nobody else's. And everybody else that is a part of the Patreon. You know what? Okay, so I'm just going to say I was doing the podcast, and there's OneShortEye and Joshua from the Adventure Game Hotspot and Adventure Game Geek and Space Quest Historian, and I couldn't decide what to call anybody. Am I calling them their real name?
Right.
Am I calling them their online persona name? So instead of making a decision, I changed what I called each of them throughout the whole episode with some terrible excuse as to why. So my husband said, next time you're doing something like that, like draw a picture of the squares on your screen in front of you and just write each person's name that you want to call them in each square so that you don't have to think about it and you can keep it consistent. And
it's so reasonable and logical. I hate it.
Isn't it? I'm like, I don't think I'll ever do that. But
This
that
is why we're
such a
imprecise.
cool idea.
This is why we had no business doing an episode like this.
None whatsoever, but it happened. I was the one that was excited. I came at Paul with like a whole bunch of episodes, and then all of a sudden I got this one, and it superseded everything else.
Speaking of Mark Fillion, buy his awesome, beautiful game, Chinatown Detective Agency. Mm-hmm. And then while you're there, leave a review for the Phantom Fellows. Yay, we still have a pretty sad amount of reviews compared to the other boys. Everybody out there and girls, everybody out there is doing. They got so many more reviews than we do, and people are playing it. They're just not reviewing it as much. Mm-hmm. So if you guys could leave a review, man, I would really, really, really appreciate it. We could use some reviews, and it's do you have more? Are you going to say more to them after all of this?
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay, all right.
Can I?
I mean, they're here.
So come say hi to us. We're on Twitter at CGG Podcast, or, yell at Paul at the Phantom Fellows. We're also on Blue Sky, and you can check out thephantomfellows.com. It's got guidebooks and walkthroughs and everything you need to play the game. Send us your words, mail at cggpodcast.com. Jump on to the Patreon that I was just talking about. See if anything new is coming, interesting things down the way. We're also on Facebook. We're a page. We're a group. We're on Instagram, and we're on YouTube and anywhere else randomly on the internet. Just ask your Google Home, ask your Google speaker, type it into Google. It comes up pretty quickly. So,
yeah, sweet. Okay, I'd say we'll be back with the return to Monkey Island probably next episode. I'd say an 80% chance next episode. That'll be that. Yeah. Right? Are you confident about that? Are we doing that?
Yeah, I'm confident.
Okay.
You're the one that's not been confident.
Hasn't played it. Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely be back in 2 weeks. We know that. I mean, probably. That's also, you never know. Life is fragile, but okay. All right. Don't do murder.
Just because sluts started to put like teardrops and things that looked like chandeliers on their ass in that same zone doesn't affect what yours is, I don't think.
Well, thank you. It is definitely still a good place for somebody to come on, but it's not a tramp stamp.
Oh boy, somebody clean that up.